Okay, so this video is specifically to go over the self-hypnosis practice. We've already gone over content related to how to construct an effective hypno-affirmation, a phrase that we use in the context of hypnosis. This phrase can also be used in EFT tapping and with other protocols, but the idea is that we want to make it really believable and achievable, concise. We've already gone over all those details and constructing a meaningful affirmation for you. So once you have that, this is a practice that can really help exponentially, potentiate. This is like a new word that's coming out here. Accelerate. Those are some other words. Amplify, magnify. I mean, this is where we tap into those theta brainwaves, and that's what allows us to become more neuroplastic. So that is why I want to go through this practice in particular. Going to share my screen here. Present. Okay. So the first thing we're going to go over is the step-by-step guide on how to invoke self-hypnosis. This is version of the self-hypnosis practice I got from Grace Smith in the Grace Hypnotherapy Method certification process. The very first step is to check your starting stress number from 0 to 10. Now, as you go through these steps on the left column, you'll see on the right column there are elaborated notes. So with that, you can also use additional or alternative scales. So not every time we're doing this practice are we really stressed out, and that's okay. You can always just take a pulse on. I like to say too, it's like an internal snapshot. We just take a moment to notice where we are, our starting point, and you know all these different data points before and after. Another scale you might use though is something like bliss. Say that you really want to dial up your bliss or really dial up a sense of calm. Now, the way that this scale works is that the suggestion is actually to put it on a continuum where 0 is relaxed and 10 is the most stressed out. So on that continuum, you check where you are. Again, you could do that plus another or just another. But again, an internal snapshot. You just take a moment, notice where you're starting. When you're ready to begin, you look upward. And by taking your gaze upward as if you had a skylight in the crown of your head, you're going to be straining your eyes vaguely, tiring them out so they want to close. You're also invoking a recall function of your brain. This already is going to shift your brain waves into more of an alpha state, and it's going to help you to recall your intention and to start to imprint that intention. This is when you'll say to yourself, either out loud or internally, your hypno-affirmation. So say we were working with, I love myself more every day. So I'd look up, I'd say, I love myself more every day. I'd take a moment just looking up, feeling those words reverberate in my body, echo in my mind, and with a nice deep letting go breath, exhale, let the eyes blink close, keeping the eyes looking up behind the eyelids to begin, and then eventually just let it go, relax, send a wave of relaxation through mind and body. You can start to follow along with me. So as you close your eyes, this isn't written on the steps, but one of the useful techniques here is progressive relaxation. So you begin to relax the scalp. You invite the forehead to smooth out. You let the cheeks become more soft and supple. The jaw becomes a little more loose and slack. You'll even hear the way that I'm articulating is slowing down. You may not be vocally leading yourself through this. You could. That could also support your soothing of your nervous system by vocal toning. However, even if you're just doing this internally, you can start to feel your own inner guidance, taking that sort of slow, melodious, smooth approach to inviting you to start to relax. You feel yourself shifting gears. And you realize that your eyes just want to stay closed. You check in with the eyelids and feel into the velvety darkness behind your eyelids. And you could even try to open them. You start to feel into how comfortable and relaxed your eyes have become. And you imagine a color that you love flowing through your body. You let it flow from the top of your head down through the body, out the feet. You may even imagine it going deep into the earth, grounding you, rooting you. And then you check in with the eyes again and you try to open them. And when you feel your eyes have received the suggestion that they just want to stay closed, you know you're already in a state of hypnosis. You have already shifted sufficiently into those deep brainwaves, at least between alpha and theta, if not all the way into theta already. You imagine that color you love flowing through you once again. And then you can begin to count yourself down from 10 to 1. Every decreasing number you say, I'm going deeper and deeper. So 10, we're going deeper and deeper. 9, deeper and deeper. 8, deeper and deeper. 7, I'm going deeper and deeper. 6, the deeper you go, the better you feel. 5, the better you feel, the deeper you go. 4, deeper and deeper. 3, you may naturally find your way to a very safe place. That's optional for this practice, yet I naturally start to arrive in a safe place as I'm counting 2 even deeper, trusting what comes, whatever is nourishing and offers signals of safety. 1, arriving in your safe place in full relaxation. That color you love flowing through you once again, from crown down through the body, out the feet, into the earth. And you think or you say to yourself, I am safe, I am calm, I choose to be here. I am safe, I am calm, I choose to be here. I am safe, I am calm, I choose to be here. I get to be here. And that color you love flows through you once again. And at this point, you allow yourself to recall your hypno-affirmation. As the example being used today, I love myself more every day. And I'm going to begin to quietly imagine those words being embedded into every digit of my hands, then every digit of my feet, so I can get to 20 reps, and then a final repetition will go through the body. I love myself more every day. And just think these words repeatedly, even imagine them being echoed or whispered from a spirit or a sense of a supportive presence, supporting you, feeling those words. Repeat and embed into your body. Getting quiet, letting them really settle into the system. And after 21 repetitions, give or take, you imagine that color you love flowing through the body once again. And now you see, feel, and experience the meaning of these words. You really allow yourself to see in your mind's eye any images that represent what it looks like to move through the world with this truth of loving yourself better every day, loving yourself more. You may even have glimpses of what it's looked like in the past when you've really been in a space of self-love, how it's shown up in your posture and your eye contact and your voice. You begin to feel the sensations of embodying the meaning of these words. What does it feel like to love yourself, to be love? And you experience what it's like to work from this identity of self-love, being someone who loves themselves more each day in every way as the story of life unfolds. And you might even start to get glimmers of how it enhances different scenarios that may be upcoming. Not a future tripping, a future pacing, allowing yourself to send love out ahead of you into the timeline ahead of you, feeling it smooth over any rough edges from the timeline behind you, and right here in this moment, right here and now, embodying love. And that color, love, that color begins to be sealed in with love. You let that color flow through the crown, down through the body, and love flows with it. And as it releases out your feet, you can put a smile on your face and blink your eyes open and allow yourself to take a pulse, take that internal snapshot, feel into the after effect of that practice. If you used a scale, check back in on that scale. Maybe you dialed down stress and gained more relaxation. Maybe you dialed up calm or bliss, love. And again, beyond any particular scales, you can feel the before and after comparison in your system. So that is the practice. Now, having just had an experience of it, you can look back at these steps to help imprint them in your mind's eye. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how quickly you can internalize this and that it's carried with you. It doesn't take long before this is truly part of you, and it's with you wherever you go. Now, the beauty of this too is that you can pluck from this practice any pieces of the puzzle. We're going to get more into that in a moment. But let's just scan this left column a little bit more. You can abbreviate the countdown, for example, if you're pressed for time. Maybe start at 5 and go down to 1 instead of 10 to 1. Also, if you're really relaxed and you just feel like you can drop into that theta state really easily, you might not even need the countdown. I think some people respond really well to the term, I'm going deeper and deeper, and just coaching themselves through, I'm going deeper and deeper. So maybe you do 3 counts of that, or you really like that, so you keep it. Then when it comes to the I am safe, I am calm, I choose to be here, those phrases are specifically from Grace Smith's method, and I think they're lovely and they're very important for creating, connecting to the signals of safety, to establishing that calm, to that sense of agency that we are choosing to be here and do this. All of that is super valuable, and sometimes people they might feel challenged to say I am safe for their own reasons. I've run into that. And in that case, just like we did with constructing effective hypno-affirmations, make the phrase believable and achievable for you. So if it's maybe I am opening to signals of safety, or I am attuning to safety and calm. Maybe you're not just able to say I am safe, I am calm. If that's the case, pivot, that's fine. This is where, again, you start to also, if you're saying these phrases out loud, you can be vocal toning, using your own voice to establish that safety and tune the strings of the nervous system, so to speak. Just like an instrument, our body is like an instrument, and we tune it in various ways. And this is where we're even more firmly in theta brainwaves. As I mentioned, doing the facilitation, I like to visualize my safe place, and I have various aspects of my safe place that's been built out over time, different areas that I feel called to. And for me, I'm very visual, and that visualization part is naturally part of my practice. Some people don't use that at all. It's not expressed here because you can bypass that. It doesn't have to be that. Just knowing too, for the countdown, some people will naturally visualize a staircase and imagine walking down the staircase, or various inductions have different processes. So the more you do hypnotherapy with a practitioner, the more ideas you get about how to invoke those practices in your own self-hypnosis. So then, to the repeating your hypno-affirmation 21 times silently, you can imagine, like I was saying, pushing these words into like the bones of your fingers, just because that was how I would count without counting. And because we have 20 digits on feet and hands, it's easy for me to imagine. Plus, I like the idea of like putting it in my body, putting it in my bones. Some people will just see numbers in their mind's eye, like flashing, and that's its own way of counting. And really, it's not about so much that you are exact about the counting. If that part is distracting you, it's more about giving yourself an opportunity to really to reinforce and put in the reps. And when you feel complete with it, it will help you to start to create those neural frameworks and circuitry. And this is where the rubber really meets the road. See, feel, experience the results you desire. Imagine what these words mean. Get all of your senses involved. See it in your mind's eye. Feel it in your body. Make it real in the here and now. So even if you're doing, like you're getting reflections from the past or projections into the future, the important thing is that you're tapping into what is the lived experience now. And that is the quality that magnetizes this towards us even more and familiarizes our system, conditions our system to feel safe with this new reality that we're orienting towards. And last but not least, you smile to actually release a surge of serotonin and endorphins that creates a positive association with the practice, makes you want to come back to it, and then it supports the habit creation. So then we open our eyes with that smile, check our ending number, and go from there. So that is the practice. You can print out a little wallet-sized version of this if it helps you to carry it around. Again, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised how quickly you can make this your own and it'll be with you. Now, between every step, that imagining the color you love flowing from top of your head through the bottoms of your feet, that in itself can be super valuable too for this practice ongoing, because I'm going to skip ahead to the bottom of this slide where it says that the default color is like the bell of Pavlov's dog. So you're free to use a different color at any time during this practice. Some days we might feel to different colors and feel nourished by different frequencies and colors. And that's beautiful. And if you have a default color, like one of the colors you use the most, the more that it is paired with the state of hypnosis, those theta brainwaves, the more it's going to act like the conditioning principle that was demonstrated with Pavlov's experiments. So for anyone who doesn't know, Dr. Pavlov was a behaviorist, questionable factors to how he did his work, but the end result was that he had trained his dogs to associate the ringing of a bell with eating, such that he would feed them, ring the bell, feed them, ring the bell, and to the point that ringing the bell alone, even if food was no longer present, was enough to make the dogs salivate. So it was so deeply conditioned and associated that it became an anchor. That bell was enough to trigger that feeling of preparing to eat for those dogs. So that's what we're doing with the color. It can also be done with a physical posture. So the more times you're using a color with this experience, though, the more that you can just go to that color in your mind and shift your state back into the hypnotic trance. And this can be very handy when we get stressed or activated, if we want to like reset and recalibrate. So this is a really powerful piece for me. As I said, I'm very visual, so I resonated with this. I also have always been a fan of color therapy and really honing in on that. So I find even though I use a combination of a few different colors, this process is enough, like there's enough of a continuity in the way I go through it, even if it's a different color, that it can absolutely help me shift back into calm composure. And I've had some serious tests of this when I've been leading groups in a trauma and addiction center and finding that it was very heated. There were different topics and moments where there was a lot of challenge in the group. And I remember this was one of the ways I was able to maintain composure and be a good facilitator. It took, a matter of a few seconds. It doesn't have to be a whole elaborate process. It can be an anchor that takes us back there. So just to take the note too at the bottom, you can use a mudra or other physical posture or type of anchor if you prefer. So some people will put the tip of their tongue at the roof of their mouth as a way to condition the association of theta brainwaves with this posture, so that they can just put the tongue to the top of their mouth and it helps them go back there. Some people will place a pointer finger and thumb together. That is very similar to what you might know as a mudra in yoga practices. Prayer pose is a mudra, hands together at the heart space, a hand on your heart. These are powerful practices that you can also create an association and imprint feeling tones into these physical postures such that they are more readily available on demand. So practice makes progress. The recommendation is that you keep the same hypno-affirmation for at least 21 days to create deeper, longer lasting change. Stay with the phrase until you feel complete with it, knowing you can migrate to other targets and come back to previous ones as needed. And I said this a moment ago, but these processes can be quick or they can be extended. It can be a matter of going to the restroom for a moment and taking a deep breath, letting your eyes close, imagining the color. That could be your practice, say your phrase. Or you could sit down and really make it an extended, more elaborate process. I think the more times you've done those at least 5-minute practices, the more you're going to be able to access those really brisk state shifts, because you've trained your system to know how to switch gears. And that's where just the color alone or a mudra, some kind of anchor, can be one of the ways you can access it very quickly. Yes. And continuing with the practice makes progress, given you naturally move through theta brainwaves when waking or going to sleep, that's a great time to recite your affirmation. It could be part of your morning routine, your evening ritual. Practice doing some form of self-hypnosis at least once per day, ideally 3 times per day. This technique will strengthen the neural pathways in your brain that were activated during the session, so that the transformation you desire can accelerate more and strengthen over time. Each facilitated hypnotherapy session can help plant new seeds and ideas for processes you water and grow through your own practice. They each have their benefits, and ultimately, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, in that it has to be you that makes it work. You have to want it to work, and may this serve you. I'm going to go further into making an anchor out of mudras for other feeling tones in another video. But this was the self-hypnosis practice. Enjoy.